I wonder if you have a Bible hero, maybe David, maybe Gideon, Esther, Ruth. The Bible's full of heroes. Maybe Igal or Shaphat. Who are they? Well, they were heroes for a little while. They had arrived as a people at the promised land. And Moses selected 12 who would be spies to go and look at the land. And of a whole tribe, Igal and Shaphat, they were chosen to represent the tribe. I guess their wives, their children were so proud of the whole tribe. My man has been selected. But you've never heard of them. Why? Well, because the Bible celebrates faith, not unbelief. And tragically, they were 2 of the 10 spies that came back and said, we can't possibly take the land. Only Joshua and Caleb said, no, we can. They went into the land and they saw these walled cities and they saw giants. And they said, we saw ourselves as grasshoppers in their sight. And they saw us as grasshoppers. We can't possibly do it. And although they brought back this wonderful, luscious fruit and saw the magnificent land that had been promised to them, they said, we can't do it. And it's fascinating, God's response to this. God said, how long will these people despise me? I'm sure they would have said, no, we're looking at the city, the giants. It's not that we despise you, but God took unbelief personally. Beloved, this is very important to understand. It's not that, Joshua and Caleb are just optimists. They look on the bright side, glass is half full, No, they were taking God seriously. And the 10 spies that came back and said, no, we can't do it, were not taking into account the God who'd opened the Red Sea, the God who was with them, the God who demonstrated his power and his promise. They were ignoring that, and God took it personally. I find that a real stimulus to my faith, to know it's nothing to do with me or how I feel. It's God's great name, his character, his commitment. That's the way to battle through. I thank God for being persuaded of things like that when we've hit huge problems and then thought, no, God will see us through. And really, we've got to have that attitude. It's so sad at this point in the history of these people. They turn back. They waste 40 years now wandering around in the wilderness with unbelief. Such tragedy. And God took it very, very personally. It's interesting what God said then. He said, as surely as I live, and you think, what is he going to say? Whatever will follow this is going to happen. As surely as I live, all the earth will be filled with the glory of the Lord. He doesn't even say, as surely as I live, you will take Canaan. God's eye wasn't just on Canaan. God's eye was on all the nations, like he said to Abraham, all the families of the earth will be blessed. And this was just the next step of faith. And beloved, for each one of us, our next step of faith is part of God's global program to bring through what he has for the ends of the earth. We're in that kind of situation. We face challenges, problems, setbacks. But who knows whom God is going to save through our pressing through. Maybe God's going to raise up another Billy Graham through your evangelism. God's plan is vast, and we must keep walking by faith and go into the land. Tragically, they turned back. 40 years later, after this long detour, they come back to the land and they go in and they meet Hagar and they speak to her. She says, we have been terrified of you for 40 years. We heard about you crossing the Red Sea. We heard about what happened to the Egyptians. We have been terrified of your coming. And so their attitude is, we're grasshoppers, we can't possibly go in. No, they could have gone in. So beloved, faith is rooted in the promise and the faithfulness of God. Let's keep believing. Let's not yield to fear. Let's take confidence in what God has said he will do.